Welcome to our regular pre-release webinar event. I am Roberto Antonini, one of the technical trainers of Xenia Security, and today I would like to talk to you about the new features that will be released today. Let's check them together. The new update introduced the ability to configure the new UNUMEX sensors in bus and wireless versions. Before we look at the installer interface, let's take a good look at the whole new range of sensors. From an aesthetic point of view, there are two types of sensors: the smaller Grade 2 version and the larger Grade 3 version. The product is currently certified for EN 50131 and insert, while it is being certified for SBSC. The Grade 2 version has two subcategories: the UNUMEX ST version in infrared technology and the UNUMEX DT version in infrared plus microwave technology. Grade 3 is available in the unique UNUMEX DT-AM version, which is infrared plus microwave with anti-masking. Going even more specific, UNUMEX ST is available in universal and wireless technology, and UNUMEX DT in universal, wireless, and bus technology. Finally, UNUMEX DT-AM can be found in universal and bus versions. All versions of UNUMEX are equipped with a special rotatable lens that allows the selection of sensor coverage during the installation. By default, the lens is installed to obtain a classic wide-angle coverage equal to 85 degrees, but it is possible to unclip it and rotate it 180 degrees to obtain a narrow coverage equal to 5 degrees. With the wide-angle lens, we will have a coverage of 12 meters in the Grade 2 version and 15 meters in the Grade 3 version. With the narrow lens, on the other hand, we will have 18 meters for Grade 2 and an impressive 24 meters for Grade 3. It is good to remember that with the narrow lens, the microwave will always be disabled, so Grade 3 will be no longer available. In addition, in order to discriminate small animals, it is possible to activate the pet immunity function on Grade 2 sensors by simply setting the infrared sensitivity to minimum. For Grade 3 sensors, it is possible to activate via mechanical lever the down zone function, which allows the lens to also cover the area that is closely below the sensor to prevent an intruder from crawling in. For all sensors, the installation height should be between 2 and 3 meters. The recommended height is 2.4 meters. A universal mounting bracket equipped with a tear-proof tamper with internal cable passage adaptable to any version of UNUMEX is also available, useful for both wall and ceiling installation. The maximum number of UNUMEX buses that can be connected varies according to the model of control panel used. Moving now to the configuration interface of Lattice 4.0 control panels, let's see together their programming, starting with the bus sensors. Within the bus peripherals page, we access the sensors section, where the sensor automatically detected by the control panel will be shown, just as with any other bus peripheral. At this point, we simply click on the barcode icon to enroll them. In the top section, we can read the serial number and the firmware and hardware version of the sensor. Further down, in the real time, we can instead check how the lens has been set. In our case, it is wide angle, so with a wide range, and the sensor power supply. Below that, we can customize the name of the sensor, and since we are using a double technology sensor, we can adjust the sensitivity of the microwave to 3 levels. On the other hand, there are 4 levels of sensitivity for the infrared. This sensor is a grade 3 equipped with the anti-masking function, so we can enable or disable that function and select its sensitivity. Finally, it is possible to enable signaling via RGB LEDs according to the following color code: multicolor flashing when warming up, green when alarms or masking occurs, red when there is a low voltage. By also enabling the PER or microwave notification with LED function, we will have 2 separate signaling: purple LED for PER and yellow LED for microwave. Now, let's move on the configuration of a UNUM X wireless sensor, specifically the dual technology version. We access the wireless peripherals page and select the wireless sensors item. Here, we manually add the new sensor, select UNUM X DT, and enter the serial number found on board the sensor. We save and apply the session and do a first transmission. In the real-time window, we will have the classic wireless device information, such as the date and time of the last transmission, the receiver we are communicating with, and the signal quality. In this case, we will also have an indication of the battery charge and the position of the Fresnel lens. The configuration regarding infrared and microwave sensitivity remains unchanged for what has already been said for bus sensors. Unlike the bus sensors, the signaling LED, if activated, will be red to signal an alarm and flashing red during the warm-up phase. Through the Always Active option, we can decide whether to send the sensor to standby when the system is disarmed, off selector, or keep it always on selector. Finally, the inhibition time between one detection and the next can be set from a minimum of 5 to a maximum of 255 seconds, 60 seconds by default. As usual, to complete the configuration of any sensor, it is necessary to create a zone to associate with the UNUM X. I would also remind you that the Universal Grade 3 version comes with a component called PEU-F that can be placed inside the special connector to easily introduce end-of-line resistors without using additional external resistors. In this case, the balance called Triple Balance UNUM X DT-AM should be selected. The intro module is a bus peripheral that was created from the need to enhance the Lattice 4.0 platform with a new integration between security and access control functions. The main function is to protect access to buildings and/or restricted areas from unauthorized persons. Each individual intro module allows you to wire and manage a gateway complete with door with third-party electronic lock, a magnetic contact to control the opening-closing of the door, two RFID reader devices, Volo readers, Volo In or ErgoX keypad, an RTE request to exit button to unlock the door from inside the protected area, an optical flashing light or audible buzzer signaling device for DOTL, that is, door open too long, and FD, forced door alarms. The intro module is available with 6 module DIN rail mount or in kit with plastic case, separate 12 or 24 volt power supply. It physically features one system bus for connection to the bus of the Lattice 4.0 control panel, one bus for connecting two user interfaces that could be ErgoX Volo or Volo In, 12 24 volt direct current power supply, an RGB status LED, 6 outputs including 2 relay outputs 30 volts DC 8 ampere, lock 1 for lock control and O3 that is a programmable output, and then we have 4 relay outputs 30 volt DC 1 ampere. O1 and O2 are programmable, O4 pre-configured for gateway status. This output connected to a LED, for example, is automatically activated when the gateway is disabled. O5 is a pre-configured for alert, force door, or door open too long. If connected to an internal siren, for example, it activates on occurrence of door open too long or force door alarms. We have then 7 inputs. 2 programmable inputs, E1 and E2, 1 pre-configured programmable input, E3 door status, that connected to a magnetic contact is used to detect the door status, open or closed. Through this input, it will be possible to manage force door and door open too long functions. Then we have 4 pre-configured inputs. E4 is the RTE request to exit connected to a push button inside the protected area. It is used to command the opening of the door without authenticating and avoiding the generation of the force door event. E5 is the cylinder status. If provided by the electronic lock, it is connected to the lock bolt to detect the status of open, lock not closed with bolts, or closed, lock closed with multiple bolts. E6 is the battery charge connected to the BAT low output of the external power supply. Normal if there is a normal battery voltage. Low if the battery voltage is less than 11 volts if there is a 12 volt power supply, or less than 21 volts if there is a 24 volt power supply. This figure is valid only when the main power supply is missing. If the battery is not connected, it reports normal. E7 is the power supply status, 230 volts, connected to the AC-OK output of the external power supply. We have the indication of present if the main power supply is present, and absent if the main power supply is absent. The maximum number of intro that can be connected varies according to the model of control panel used. There is also the possibility of purchasing a license to apply to the Lattice 4.0 140 wireless and the Lattice 4.0 644 wireless control panels to extend this limit up to 20 devices for the 140 control panel and 30 for the 644 control panel. Now, on the bus peripherals page, we will enroll the intro module. The real-time informations are the serial number, the firmware version, the hardware version, the status of the gate, deadbolt and door, and the gate logical status. The gate logical status of the gate is the result of comparing gate, door status, and deadbolt status. We also have as information the status of the push button, whether it is pressed or not, whether it activates or deactivates the door open to long function for detecting the door status, and information about the main power supply and battery voltage. In the drop-down menu below, called Commands, we can perform door opening by simply clicking on the Open button. Also on the Intro module programming page, in the General section, we have the possibility to customize the name, indicate in the field Disable Gateway if one of these partitions is armed, the affected partitions. Thus, the gateway will automatically disable itself when at least one of the set partitions is armed. A disabled gate will not allow user access, even if they are authorized to. Associate one or more rooms for the visualization on graphical map and user app Lattice 4.0. In the top right corner, we find in the Terminal Details section all the configurable terminals of the Intro module, and by clicking, for example, on the E3, we have the possibility to directly configure the specific zone. Obviously, the configuration of the specific zone will also be reported in the page dedicated to the zones within the Layout menu. This functionality is also available in the configuration of expansion modules of any type. In the Door Status Input section, we have the ability to manage the enabling of forced door, which occurs when the door has been opened without authorization. Also in the same section, it is possible to manage the DOTL, Door Open to Long function, to detect the open door for a time that is longer than the customized time in the DOTL timeout field, that is settable for 1 to 30 minutes, beyond which the DOTL alarm is activated. This parameter is useful for checking that the door is not left open for too long. In the Lock section, we can manage the enabling of the lock status input. If enabled, a reading of the lock status input, bolt open or closed, will be taken if the electromechanical lock is equipped with such an input and is wired. In the field lock output on time is entered the time expressed in seconds during which the output lock 1 remains active. Moving it to the Scenarios page, present in the Layout menu, creating a new one, we can select among the actions the type Gates. As subtype, we find Open Gate, Enable Gate, and Disable Gate. And among the entities, obviously, we will select the gate that must be managed. In the Events page, instead, we find a new type of event that is Gate. As subtype, we can select Door Open to Long and Forced Door. Among the entities, we choose which specific gate or specific gates, and finally, we will add the action we want to perform. This type of event will also be available in the Notifications page. Configuring the Intro module will automatically create a gate. The gate will take the same name we assigned to the Intro device. In our case, we named it Warehouse. Now, accessing the Lattice 4.0 app, Using the PIN of an administrator user, we go to the page on the left where we find the Access Control section. Within this section, we find a new item, Gates, and within the page, we will find the list of all the gates, therefore, of all installed and configured intro modules. The administrator user will have the opportunity to open the door also directly from this page by simply clicking on the icon and entering their PIN. Going back and accessing the access permission page, again, the administrator user will be able to add to the access permission the gates to be associated with this permission. By default, the association is on all gates, but we can disable this choice and select the various gates to be associated with this access permission. In our case, there is only one, warehouse. An important new feature concerns the event log. With this new version, filters can be applied to display only events in the selected category. Currently, the categories are Security and Access Control. It is also possible to choose the number of events to show and a range of dates. These events can then be exported in CSV, PDF, or printed. The ability to search for a specific text in the appropriate field always remains available. The same changes are also reported for the user web server. Another new feature I'm going to introduce was already introduced in the previous update, but we have not shown it to you yet. It is a simplification of the configuration of custom balances. We will just click on the plus icon to create one. We can give it a description, and once we choose the type of balancing, clicking on the icon named Calculate Balancing, a page will appear with a diagram representation related to the chosen balancing, and we will have the possibility to enter the values of the resistances present inside the sensor. Doing so will automatically set the thresholds of the resistive values useful for the short, rest, alarm, masking, and tamper events of the sensor. The various states can also be edited by clicking on the specific state and select from the proposed drop-down menu what we should like to generate as an event if the sensor analyzes that particular resistive value. This update also introduced additional improvements, so I invite you to consult the release note where you can find all the information in a more detailed way. Thank you for your attention and stay tuned.